What is up, my magic miscreants? Risen Dragon here with a fun video for you today. We're not doing deck text per se, but we are going to do some deck previews, and the upcoming set is Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It has a Wild West theme to it, and I could not be any more excited. I have been waiting for this set for a while, and I am very, very psyched. I love the Wild West. I love that sort of genre, and I'm really hoping that this set turns out well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at 5 decks that I think, if anything, you should play. Whether they're fun or competitive or not, who knows? But these are some riffs on decks that we've done before. But there are some new tools. There are some new cards that give these decks some pop. So the first one we're going to look at is Aetherhub Life Gain Tokens. Now, it's Aetherhub Life Gain. We've done a deck like that before. In fact, one of them was rated grindworthy, and it is grindworthy. It is very, very effective, the Aetherhub Life Gain build that we created a few months back. That is really, really good. So this one kind of takes it a step further because now we add tokens to the mix. And as always, we have to have some life gain stuff going on. So Case of the Uneaten Feast is in there, Lunark Veterans, Elas Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim, of course, Voice of the Blessed. Man, we're going to miss that one when it's gone. But also, too, we have Adeline, which pumps tokens in. And let's see, we got Kaya Geist Hunter. That one also has some token stuff in it. Let's click on that. Can I click on that? Well, anyways. And then we have Kaya Spirit's Justice as well, coming in with some token generation too. We're also running some removal, March of Otherworldly Light, March of Wretched Sorrow, Get Lost. Yeah, there's Get Lost right there. So what does this new set bring in? Well, it brings in Kambal Profiteering Mayor. In fact, I think I'm going to go back to the deck list for this. Baron... Oh, I'm sorry. Nope, wrong one. Yeah, there it is. Kambal Profiteering Mayor. This is a legendary creature. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your opponent's control, for each of them, create a tap token that's a copy of it. This ability triggers only once each turn. However, when one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So there is some very interesting things that this can do. Sunfall does... I don't know if it triggers... I don't think it triggers with a Sunfall. But if our opponent is running like copies or token builds as well, we get the tokens too. So it's kind of like the judo technique of using your own weight against your opponent. So that's a fun one to have. Baron Bertram Greywater. This is a vampire noble legendary creature. Whenever one or more tokens enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 black vampire rogue creature token with lifelink, and it triggers only once each turn. Plus, we can sacrifice another creature or artifact to draw a card, so we can gain some card advantage with that as well. Let's see, what are some new ones that we have coming in here? Ruthless Lawbringer. Let's look at this one. When it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. So we can kind of have some spot removal. There's a little bit of control, more control in this particular build than our previous one. So all in all, I think this one does have some interesting potential to it. It's got the life gain stuff. We have some planeswalkers that come in here that can generate tokens. And let's see, maybe not generate tokens, but yeah, that can work. That can work. Kaya Spirit's Justice, of course. Whenever one or more creatures you control and/or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them until end of turn. Target token you control becomes a copy of it. We can create tokens with this. That is fun stuff, right? And I'm sure there's some interactions here that we're overlooking. I mean, throughout the first few days of Standard, it's always kind of a... It's kind of the Wild West, to use that term. It's kind of the Wild West. It's kind of crazy the first few weeks of the new Standard, just seeing what decks work and what don't. So let's see what happens with these. But I like the idea of throwing down tokens late in the game to trigger all of our Cases in the Uneaten Feasts and all the all the life gain stuff. I mean, that's just that could absolutely wreak havoc on certain things. I think it's got a lot of potential. So let's see where it goes. The only downside too is, you know, we're with three wild cards there. Yeah, I know I've got a ton of uncommons, so it's going to be a little bit of an investment for a few people. So that's one deck we're looking at. The next one I want to look at is Legendary Golgari. Now this one has a lot of other really fun things to do. So let's look at this. This is actually really one that really is very centric around OTJ and these things. So one that I'm really excited about is Vraska Joins Up. When Vraska Joins Up enters the battlefield, put a death touch counter on each creature you control. Already kinda busted. Whenever a legendary creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So we're gaining some insane life advantage possibly out of this, if not card advantage. We pair this with Shieldred, like, it could go bonkers. Like, we could be gaining so much life with that alone. Tiny Bones Joins Up. Enters the battlefield, any number of target creatures any number of target players each discard a card. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under your control, any number of target players mill a card and lose 1 life. Ouch. Okay, that could get real fun real fast. Now I am going to say, we're not running the Tiny Bones in this particular build, simply because I think when I went to make this build, for whatever reason, Aetherhub didn't have the card ready to go. So that's one card that's kind of fun. Of course, with Go for the Throat, we got Cut Down, Assassin's Trophy, Push Pulled, which pulls stuff out, Pilfer, so there's some discard thrown in there. This one is a fun card. Vraska the Silencer with Death Touch. Whenever a non-token creature an opponent control dies, you may pay 1. If you do, return that card to the battlefield tapped under your control. It's a treasure artifact. With sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and it loses all other card types. So we can kind of steal opponent's stuff if I'm reading that correctly, and it's just going to be... It's just like the judo technique. You're using your opponent's weight against them. I think that's going to be a really fun card to play with. Vadmir New Blood. Now this is an interesting one. Whenever you commit a crime, put a +1/+1 counter on Vadmir. This triggers only once each turn. As long as it has 4 or more +1/+1 counters on it, it has Menace and Lifelink. So it's almost like an Ayara's Oathsworn, only it's a little bit more situational. We are running quite a bit of crime committing. So crime committing is, or commit a crime, targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard is a crime. Now notice we are running spot removal, some spot removal, but opponent triggering. Okay, so we have some fun stuff here. We are running Shieldred the Apocalypse. That should go real well with Vraska Joins Up. Shieldred, just Shieldred. Vron Executioner Thane, because we do have some sacrificial stuff in there, and yeah, who knows, that could come in handy. Graveyard Trespasser. Now this also triggers into the Vadmir sort of thing, kind of a little bit of a side little interaction there, but you know, we all know what that does. One that really I'm excited about is Gisa the Hellraiser. Ward 2, pay 2 life. Oof. Ouch. Skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have Menace. Now that's not always... We're not running a ton of those in this, but we are running a lot of things that can commit crimes and create, whenever you commit a crime, create 2 tapped 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens. This ability triggers only once each turn. Totally fine, but we're going to be flooding... Well, maybe not flooding, but we are going to be putting down quite a bit of creature tokens with this. And then we're running Aklazotz as well, because that's discard and target opponent. Each opponent, no, it's not target, but anyways, each opponent draws a card, which kind of feeds into the push-pull a little bit as well. Now, one thing too that is coming in are deserts. When it enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters, it deals 1 damage to target opponent. So, man, oh, I just had a great idea. That card coming into play Ooh, I just got a great idea. Not Vein Ripper, but the Bloodletter of Aclazotz, and a bunch of deserts, and Aftermath Analysts. Your lands can become machine guns. How cool would that be? That'd be an interesting one to do. But anyways, this deck is not very cost effective. It's $540 in paper, but that's why we play Standard on MTG Arena. So I think this deck, Legendary Golgari, is going to be a fun one to do. So let's take a look at another one. Cooking with Tiny Bones. Okay, this is the one that I was... Now it says Tiny Bones Pickpocket is illegal. I don't know. But this is Skeleton Tribal. Or Typal, whatever you call it these days. And a lot of content creators were really hyping this one. I know CGB was hyping this one up. I'm going to likewise do it. So let's take a look at what it is. We start with Tiny Bones, the Pickpocket. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may cast target non-land permanent card from that player's graveyard, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Holy gosh. You put some sort of menace on this thing, and you're just going to be stealing people's cards from their graveyards left and right. But how do we get there? Well, let's go. Forsaken Miner. Whenever you can't block, whenever you commit a crime, you may pay a black mana. If you do, return it from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a 1/2/2. It's a 1-drop 2/2. Can't get much better than that. We're running some Cult Conscripts. We are running Gisa because of the fact that skeletons and zombies get +1/+1 and have menace. Yeah. Tiny Bones. Tiny Bones. We're also doing Roaming Throne because we gotta have Roaming Throne in a skeleton typal deck, because oh my god, that could go nuts. That could absolutely totally go nuts. Tiny Bones joins up. We already went over that in a previous deck. Case of the Stashed Skeleton. We're running 4 of these. That's a fun one to have too. Let's see, Corpses of the Lost, we're running 3 of those. Skeletons you control get +1/+0, so it kind of feeds into the Gisa thing, and they have haste. So when it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 black skeleton pirate creature token. Of course, at the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1 life if you descended this turn. If you do, return Corpses of the Lost to the owner's hand. Fun stuff. Now, Push Pull, Go for the Throat, all of those are committing crimes. Cruelty of Gix, let's see, target opponent reveals their hand, so that's a crime. And of course, you know, we know what this does. Target creature from a graveyard into play under your control. Virtue of Persistence kind of feeds into the crime stuff. Lockthwain Scorn, -3/-3, gain 2 life. Beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard into the battlefield under your control. So there is all that sort of stuff with this particular build. So there's some twists to this deck that I think do make it, you know, quite more playable. We are running some deserts, and this one's an interesting one. Sandstorm Verge, 3 and tap it. Target creature can't block this turn. You activate that as a sorcery. Arid Archway. Enters the battlefield, return a land you control to its owner's hand. If another desert was returned this way, surveil 1. Tap and add 2 colorless. How fun is that? So there's a little bit, it's got some slowness to it that is not desirable, but 2 mana? Ooh, that could get big when it comes to the Virtue of Persistence and some of our late game stuff. So that's fun. We can drop that down on like a second turn or something like that. That would be cool. Anyways, alright, we are onto our 4th deck, and this one is Big Bant, and this is Bant tokens. And there are some ones on this that are really, really interesting. So basically, this is just adding tokens already, +1/+1 tokens already to what we have. So basically, and we're running it in Bant colors, but all of our creatures are Selesnya colors. So let's look at what we got. We got Bristly Bill, the Spine Sower. Landfall. Landfall is kind of back. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. 3 and 2 green, double the number of +1/+1 counters on each creature you control. Alright, fun stuff. Goldvein Hydra. This is, I saw this card and I was like, oh, this is going to be a fun card to play with. Vigilance, Trample, Haste enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. When it dies, create a number of tapped treasure tokens equal to its power. So we ramp into this as well. Ornery Tumblewag, we have mounts, which I think are interesting for this one. We haven't talked much about mounts, but it has saddle, which means tap any number of other creatures you control with power 2 or more. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn. Can only do it as a sorcery. So at the beginning of combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. Whenever Ornery Tumblewag attacks while saddled, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature. I think I saw Sways using this card, and I was like, that is an interesting one to put in. Railway Brawler, kind of our late gamer, with plot, and we'll go over what that means in a minute. Reach and Trample. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is its power. We may plot it for 3 and a green. You may pay 3 and a green and exile this card from your hand. Cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Plot only as a sorcery. So basically we can kind of play this for free on a future turn, and that is an insanely good feature. I'm excited to see what plot and saddling can do, and I think that those two dynamics, I think, are really going to be fun. So let's see where that one goes. But even still, we're just making our creatures bigger and bigger and bigger. Botanical Brawler, Carrion Beast Caller, and of course we have to have Kodama of the West Tree because these are modified creatures, and they have Trample. And whenever they deal combat damage to a player, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle. So we can ramp into stuff. Trash the Town. Now here's another one that another mechanic. Spree. Choose 1 or more additional costs. For plus, now this is a single mana card, but for +2 we put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature. For another one, target creature gains Trample till end of turn. For another, until end of turn, target creature gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw 2 cards. Okay, I don't know where this is going to go with all of the with Kodama on the battlefield, but ooh, I can see this getting out of hand. We're running 2 Ozoliths, of course. If 1 or more +1/+1 counters, you would be put on a creature you control. That many +1/+1 counters are put on it instead. And of course, for 1 green and tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target artifact or creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. It does have cycling in this, that we used that a few times. We are running Broker's Ascendancy. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each planeswalker you control. We are running a planeswalker. Repulsive Mutation, just for some counter spells, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, then counter up to 1 target spell unless its controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. Okay, and Broker's Charm, just because, target creature gets +1/+0, just from spot removal here. Destroy target enchantment or draw 2 cards. Fun to have. And also Ajani, Sleeper's Agent. We can distribute +1/+1 counters, Vigilance, but revealing the top cards of your library creature. We're running 21 creature cards, and we can put it into our hand. Otherwise, they can put it on the bottom of your library. And of course, they have an emblem. Whenever you cast a creature or planeswalker spell, target opponent gets 2 poison counters. I don't think I've ever ultimated Ajani, but is what it is. So I think this card this deck, pumping out large creatures. Oh, good stuff. I'm excited for this particular deck as well. And finally, because sometimes we gotta do it, Mono Red. But Mono Red has some very good new cards with this. So let's get into it. Slick Shot, Show Off. Flying in Haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +2/+0 till end of turn. We can plot it for 1 and a red. And again, we can just absolutely go to town with this card. I have a feeling this card can get scary big, scary fast. It is a 1/2, so it can, you know, it can dodge some sweepers early on, like End the Festivities or Tectonic Hazard. I think is one that I've seen a little bit, and it really, I think that little prowess ability, I think, just really is going to make this card a very powerful card in a mono red. Magebane Lizard is another one. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Magebane Lizard deals damage to that player equal to the number of non-creature spells they've cast this turn. So this is so basically we can cast our instants, Play with Fire, you know, any of these. We're running 15 of them, which is not a lot, but even still, I do think it still could make a whole load of difference. So even still, this card is, I think, going to get pretty crazy pretty fast. It's a 1/4 for 2, so I mean it can dodge a lot of big sweeper spells. But dang, this card is kind of busted to an extent. I don't know if it's fully busted, but it is definitely quite powerful, I think, and overlooked. Alright, so let's see. Phoenix Chick, Monastery Mentor, Ronan, Feldon, Ronan Excavator, Bloodthirsty Adversary. Frantic Scapegoat's an interesting one. When it enters the battlefield, suspect it. Whenever one or more other creatures enter the battlefield under your control, if Frantic Scapegoat is suspected, you may suspect another one of the other creatures. If you do, it is no longer suspected. Okay. Magda the Horde Master. Now this is an interesting one. Whenever you commit a crime, create a tap treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn. Sacrifice 3 treasures. Create a 4/4 red flying scorpion dragon creature token with flying and haste. Activate only as a sorcery. So we can actually, you know, we're committing crimes with all these. We can you know, gain some resources as well from this, and as well as a big body. And Scorching Shot for 2 red, it deals 5 damage to target creature. I think a huge upgrade for Witch Stalker Frenzy as far as your curve is concerned. Might run a few more of those, maybe take out a Kumano and put that in, because man, that card could get real scary. Now this is the thing, we're running 21 lands, so this deck is insanely low to the ground. I'm curious to see if it's going to be quick, and also too, it's just a shade over $100, and you might be saying, well, that's not cheap. You're right, it isn't, but neither is a $540 deck that we were playing with earlier. So for a fifth of what the high end of one of our decks costs, you can run mono red, and it looks very competitive. So we'll have to see how the meta shakes out, but I can say that I am insanely excited for Outlaws at Thunder Junction. I'm just Outlaws of Thunder Junction. It's been a long day. I'm excited for when it drops on Thursday. More than likely, I'm probably going to brew this one first, because I like mono red. I do like playing mono red every now and then. It's a little bit more out there, but I think also too, the other one I really want to try is the legendary Golgari. I think this one is going to be kind of, there's some fun interactions there, and I'm really excited for that one. All 5 of these decks I'm really excited for, and just the whole thing. I'm just very, 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 very stoked that they finally came out with a set based on the Wild West, and they've actually made it work. It seems like it's got a really fun storyline, and I'm very excited for this. So I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like, leave a subscribe. Let me know what you think of these. I might even post a survey saying, hey, which one would you like me to brew first? And I'll go from there. So if you like what you see, please like, please subscribe, and as always, my magic miscreants, may you always be on the play, and may all your spells hit the board. Risen Dragon is out. I will see you on Tuesday after Outlaws of Thunder Junction has been released. Till then, enjoy the rest of your day.